Hello children, welcome to Jairam High Secondary School online classes. This is a video from class 9 biology, unit 18, organization of tissues. I hope you all have reviewed the previous parts of this lesson. In the previous videos, we have discussed about the types of living organisms based upon the number of cells as unicellular and multicellular. And we have discussed about the definition of tissues, how the cells are being grouped together to perform a specialized function such as tissues. And we have discussed about the classification of plant tissues are meristematic and permanent tissues. And under plant tissues, we have seen the definition of meristematic tissues, characteristics of meristems, and types of meristems based on position as apical meristem, intercalary meristem, and lateral meristem. And we have seen the functions of meristems. And next we have discussed about the permanent tissues, simple tissues, parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma, and complex tissues such as xylem and phloem, and various components of xylem and various components of phloem. So this is about the plant tissues, and we have seen the differences between xylem and phloem and differences between meristematic tissue and permanent tissues. We also have discussed about animal tissues such as simple tissue and complex tissue, and we have discussed about the classification of animal tissues such as epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue, and nervous tissue. So among the four types of tissues, we already discussed about the epithelial tissues, and there are types such as squamous epithelium, cuboidal epithelium, columnar epithelium, ciliated epithelium, and glandular epithelium, and compound epithelium and their functions. And we also discussed about the types of muscular tissues such as skeletal muscle, smooth muscle, and cardiac muscle. And we have seen about nervous tissue and about the structure and functions of neuron. And also we have discussed about the connective tissue and their classification. And we have seen about the explanation of areolar tissue and adipose tissue, and supportive connective tissue such as cartilage and bone. So in the previous videos we have discussed all these things. Now we'll continue in this video about the next type of connective tissue such as dense connective tissue. So these kind of dense connective tissues, these are fibrous type, and it is made up of fibers and fibroblast. Fibroblast are the cells which make up this dense connective tissues, and fibers and fibroblasts are the components of this dense connective tissues. And tendon is a type of connective tissue. So tendons, you can see from the picture, this is the structure of a tendon. It is a cord like strong connective tissue which joins muscle to the bones. Children, have you ever imagined how our muscles and bones are connected? Imagine and see, if there is no tendons, how our muscles and bones would be. Our bones would be in separate and our muscles will be in separate. So can we have a skeletal framework without this tendons? So tendons forms a basic part of our dense connective tissue which joins muscle to the bones, which gives the skeletal framework of our human body. So tendons are the very important connective tissues which gives framework to our body. And tendons, these are of great strength and limited flexibility. So you can stretch your arms and legs and you can move your body parts up to a certain limit. So that flexibility is provided by this tendons. Even though it has limited flexibility, it has a great strength to hold our body to upright. So tendons, they have great strength and has limited flexibility. And collagen is a type of tissue which is present in tendons. Okay. Next type of dense connective tissue is ligaments. So ligaments, so from the picture you can see the occurrence of ligaments. So it is present in between the joints. So joints are the place where the two bones meet, like we have elbow joint, knee joint, ankle joint, and our finger joint also. So joint are the places where the two bones meet. So without the joint, our skeletal framework would not be there, isn't it? So the skeletal system is made up of joints. So the bones are joined together at each part through the help of joints. So at this joint we have highly elastic substance such as ligaments, and these consist of very little matrix, and it helps in strengthening of joints, and it allows normal movement. Imagine if we do not have any type of joints in our elbow, can we stretch and contract our hands together? Or if there is no joints in our knees, can we stretch our legs? Can we walk? So these are type of ligaments which helpful for our locomotion, which helpful for which is very helpful for us to move from one place to another place. So the movement of the limbs is based upon this type of ligaments, and sometimes we may encounter some type of fractures in our elbow and knees when we are playing in a playground. For example, if you are playing in a playground, you might prone to have some type of fractures which may cause swelling in the knee regions or in the elbow regions. So that is due to the torning of this ligaments. So if the ligament has been fractured, you may encounter swelling or redness in that particular part. So ligament, in addition to that, it protects us bone from the outer shock. So if we fall down suddenly, the shock that happens, that is prevented with the help of this ligaments. And when the person's becoming aged, these ligaments are also bound to get damaged, and so that only the persons who are at the above age of 50, they do not sit and stand up as usual. Okay, so this is type of dense connective tissue. Next, coming to fluid connective tissue. So which is the fluid which connects our whole body, which is the fluid which carries oxygen to all parts of our body, which is the fluid which runs all throughout the body, which transport nutrients to all organs of our body? Can you answer it, children? So it is nothing but fluid connective tissue. So blood is the fluid connective tissue which carries nutrients and oxygen to various parts of the body. So it is also connecting from our head to the toe region. So it is a type of connective tissue. So it connects the different parts of the body, and it is loosely arranged. Just you imagine and see, children, if the blood is hard like a bone, can the nutrients and oxygen can be transported to various organs of the body? No, it cannot be transported if the blood is like bone. So blood is like it is loosely arranged for the transport of oxygen and nutrients easily all throughout the body. So it's a type of fluid connective tissue which is loosely arranged, and these fluid connective tissue are embedded in an intracellular matrix. So intra means within the cell, so it is present within the cell in a form of a matrix. So these kind of fluid connective tissue are embedded in an intracellular matrix. So blood is a very good example of a fluid connective tissue. So you know very well, blood runs all throughout the body, and what is the color of the blood? Obviously it is red in color. So when you have a wound in your any part of the body, the first thing to come out, oozes out, is the blood, which will be red in color. So blood is the main circulating fluid, and it contains a fluid matrix consisting of plasma. So plasma contains organic and inorganic components, and in addition to that, it contains different types of cells like RBC, WBC and platelets. We know already a tissue is made up of a group of cells. So RBC is a type of cell, WBC is a type of cell, and platelets are the types of cells. So these different groups of cells together forms the tissue blood. So blood is a tissue. It is made up of various kinds of cells such as RBC, WBC and platelets. So these are the components of blood. So we'll see about the components of blood one by one. So types of blood cells. In our blood we have three types of blood cells: RBC, WBC and platelets. So first comes the red blood cells, RBC. It is also called as erythrocytes. And if you see from the picture, you can see the shape of our red blood cells as oval or circular or biconcave or disc shape. So red blood cells may occur as oval in shape or circular or biconcave or disc shape. So here from the picture you can see the shape of red blood cells, and these red blood cells lack nucleus when mature. So children, we know already cells have nucleus, which is the controlling center of the cell. So without nucleus the cell cannot survive. And how this type of red blood cells can survive without nucleus? So let us see how it is happening. Here look to the sentence very carefully. They lack nucleus when mature. So the newborn RBC cells, red blood cells, they have nucleus. When the cells become mature only, they lack nucleus. So if they lack nucleus, can the cell survive? No, obviously it cannot survive if it does not contain nucleus. So the cells will die. So once in 19 days we have formation of RBC cells, once in 90 days. So only during blood donation we can have a doubt if we are donating our blood to some other persons, will our blood components will be lost or our blood component will become low? Obviously it does not. So once in 19 days our blood will be forming again and again. So RBC cells have a capacity to form again and again. So if you are donating blood also, it does not cause any harm to us. If we say it is good thing to donate blood, so blood donation is a very good thing. Once the RBC cells are getting matured, it lacks nucleus, then it dies. So instead of dying and coming out as a waste, instead of that we can donate our blood and we can save many lives. So blood donation is a very good thing. So these type of RBC cells, when they mature only, they lack nucleus, and these are the only cells without nucleus. So if we ask any question, what are the cells which does not contain nucleus, so you can very well answer, the mature RBC cells do not have nucleus. Since the controlling center of the cell nucleus is not present here, the cells cannot survive after that. So the cells will die, and after that new type of red blood cells will be formed from region. So do you know where the red blood cells can be formed? So it is formed from a region called as bone marrow, which is present in between the bones. So we know about the functions of bones, such as it forms the skeletal framework and it is used for locomotion and it protects the internal organs. In addition to that, the bones also contains a soft tissue called as bone marrow, which is mainly meant for the production of red blood cells. So red blood cells are mainly formed in the bone marrow region. And also the red blood cells are very important to it, which gives red color to our blood. So the blood is red in color due to the presence of the respiratory pigment called as hemoglobin. So pigment is nothing but any agent which gives color to a particular substance. The leaves are green in color due to the presence of the green pigment chlorophyll. Likewise, our hair is black in color, that is due to a presence of black color pigment melanin. So likewise, our skin has a pigment called keratin. Likewise, the blood also has a respiratory pigment called as hemoglobin, and this hemoglobin is mainly responsible for the transport of oxygen to various parts. So here comes the importance of respiration. So what is the need to respire? Why do we respire? Why do we take in oxygen? So what happens to this oxygen once it is entering inside the lungs? So once when the oxygen enters inside the lungs to the alveoli or air sacs, it enters into the bloodstream. So in the bloodstream, this oxygen combines with hemoglobin to form oxyhemoglobin, and these oxyhemoglobin is the form where it will be transmitted to all the parts of our body, and to it the oxyhemoglobin format is delivered to each and every cell in our part of our body. And you know very well, inside the cell, cellular respiration process takes place. So this oxyhemoglobin leaves alone oxygen, and again the hemoglobin will be retransporting in the bloodstream itself. So the oxygen, once it enters into the cell, it combines with the food particles to produce energy, which is very much essential for our survival. So this type of cellular respiration happens inside each and every cell of our body, and you know very well our human body is made up of trillions of cells, and each and every part of this cell, the cellular respiration happens. So as an end product of cellular respiration, energy is produced and carbon dioxide is given out. So this carbon dioxide once again combines in the blood and it is exhaled out through the process of expiration. So this circulatory system and respiratory system are the two major systems which are very much essential for our survival. So once if the circulatory system is not functioning properly, there may not be the transport of oxygen to all parts of our body, which leads to our death. So this respiratory pigment, his hemoglobin, is very much important for the transport of oxygen to all parts of our body. So since this is a main function which carries the oxygen to all parts of our body, red blood cells proves to be a very important component of our human body, RBC. Next comes WBC. WBC are nothing but white blood cells. White blood cells do not contain the pigment hemoglobin, so it may be some colorless, and it is also called as leukocytes, and these white blood cells are large in size compared to RBC. These WBC cells are large in size, and these are colorless with distinct nucleus. So we have seen in the previous slide, RBC cells when matured they lack nucleus, but this type of white blood cells, they are with nucleus, so they have a distinct nucleus, and they show amoeboid movement. So what is this amoeboid movement? Have you ever heard of an protozoan called as amoeba, which has the ability to change its shape often for its movement and for getting its prey? It changes its shape often. So amoeba, it moves with the help of its pseudopodia. So pseudopodia is a false feet which is present in amoeba, which is mainly meant for its locomotion. So this type of white blood cells also has an amoeboid movement. And what for it is moving like an amoeba? Why it has to change its shape? It has to trap all the foreign antigens, that is foreign microorganisms, which is entering inside our body unwantedly. So these kind of WBC cells proves to be our body defense mechanism. We know very well our immune system is made up of these white blood cells. Our immune system only is protecting our body from other external microorganisms and diseases. So these white blood cells has body defense mechanism, and these type of white blood cells engulf means it is trapping these antigens. Trapping is other microorganisms, so it is engulfing or destroying foreign bodies. These foreign bodies are the things which are not related with our body. So the things which are not related with our human body, which these are called as foreign bodies. For example, the microorganisms which is not related to our body. So once when the microorganisms is entering inside our body, our white blood cells will trap it and it engulf it, and it produces some types of toxins to destroy the microorganisms, thus prevents our body from other kind of infections or kind of diseases. So these white blood cells are like polyspores, which gives protection for our human body from any kind of diseases. So once this white blood cells is lowered, once our immune system is getting lowered, we are prone to many kind of such diseases. And children, our present scenario, we know the outbreak of a rare disease called as corona. It's due to a type of virus called COVID-19. And most of the researchers say that this COVID-19 enters into our human body when our immune system is very weak. So only the children and the persons who are more than 50 years of age, they have a poor immune system or a weak immune system. So their body cannot encounter and fight against this COVID-19 antigens. So only the children and the people above the age of 50, or those who have already infected with some kind of diseases like diabetes, blood pressure or cancer, they are said to be very, very cautious, and they are advised not to come out of their home or enter into crowded places to avoid the spread of this coronavirus. So coronavirus will enter inside the human body once our immune system is very, very weak. So if our WBC cells are very weak, and if we have a poor immune system, we may encounter different kinds of diseases. So only children, our mother and our elders, they advise us to take a nutritious food to be healthy. Like our diet should include pulses, grains and green leafy vegetables. So all this will improve our immune system, thus by it will prevent our body from different kinds of diseases. And also one more information I would like to say to you, these WBC cells will be higher in amount at one condition. Can you say at which condition? So once our body is getting infected with other kind of microorganisms, these WBC cells are produced in a large amount. So once during a blood test, if the WBC cells are larger than its normal amount, then the person is said to be suffering from any kind of diseases, or any kind of microorganisms have entered inside the body of the infected person. So the person will have a high count of WBC cells when there is an infected stage. Okay, so this is an information about WBC cells. Other than that, a normal human body will have a normal count of RBC, WBC and platelets. Okay, and one more information also I would like to add it to it. So if the RBC cells are small in number, we may suffer a disease called anemia. It's not a disease, it's actually a condition. It's called as an anemia. So anemia is a type of condition where the patients will have a lower count of RBC cells. So if the patient is not having a normal count of RBC cells, there may be a deficiency in the transport of oxygen to all parts of our body. So the persons who are anemic may feel very weak and very tired, and they cannot concentrate more on their studies and other day-to-day life activities also. And they may feel fatigue also, they may feel very tired, and these are some kind of symptoms of anemic patients. So in order to avoid these anemic conditions, we are advised to take more kind of fruits such as pomegranate and dates in order to improve our hemoglobin content. So if our hemoglobin and RBC cells are in a normal functioning and in a normal count only, then the persons can be very, very active and do all their activities, all their day-to-day life activities. So children always have this kind of pomegranate juice or pomegranate fruits and nuts and dates in order to improve our hemoglobin count. And this condition is called as anemic, and in order to get rid of anemic, we have to eat a healthy and nutritious diet. And here also, if the WBC count is very, very low, it is a condition called as leukopenia, and if the WBC count is more, a condition is called as leukemia. So leukemia and leukopenia are the two conditions where there is no normal count of white blood cells. And the next here comes the types of WBC cells. So WBC cells, we have different types of white blood cells, and it has been classified into two different types based on the types of granules present in it. It is granulocytes and agranulocytes. So granulocytes, these are irregular shaped, and it has cytoplasmic granules. So granules are nothing but the small particles which is present inside the cell. So you can see the dotted substance here, but here you cannot see any kind of dotted substance. So this dots represents the granules. So this is a cell, and inside the cell you have cytoplasm, and in the cytoplasm you can see the different types of granules, that is called cytoplasmic granules. Just you can compare both the picture and see, here granules are present, here there is no granules. So this is the major difference between granulocytes and agranulocytes. These cytoplasmic granules, they present, and this is of various types such as neutrophil, basophil and eosinophil. So neutrophil, basophil and eosinophil, these are the types of granulocytes, types of WBC cells. Whereas if you see in agranulocytes, these lack cytoplasmic granules. So you can see from the picture there is no granules present here. And lymphocytes and monocytes are the type of agranulocytes, and together each one is having different functions to defend our body from invasion of other microorganisms. Together it forms our body's immune defense mechanism. Okay, so this is all about the WBC cells. Next comes the last type of blood cells, that is platelets. So platelets, they are very minute, and they are these small cells in our body, and compared to RBC, platelets are much more larger, and these are also anucleated, there is absence of nucleus, and these are called megakaryones. So karyons represents the term nucleus. So nucleus, you know very well, it is the control center of the cell, and it is present in each and every cell, which gives all the functioning of the cell. So this consists of a large sized nucleus, so it is called as megakaryones. And the main function of platelets is help in blood clotting. So what is called blood clotting? Children, imagine if you are playing in the playground, and suddenly if you fell down and you can get a wound in our hand or some other parts in our body. So once when the blood comes out, and after 2 or 3 minutes it eventually stops, it automatically stops. So how this oozing of blood stops, how this clotting of blood is happening? That is due to the platelets. So platelets are the types of blood cells which is mainly responsible for clotting of blood. Can you imagine and see, if the blood is not clotted and if there is no platelets in our body, and if you get any wound, how the blood coming out will be stopped, how the blood clotting process will not happen. Then we will prone to lose a large amount of blood, so that there is no supply of oxygen to all parts of our body, which eventually leads to death. Okay, so these platelets are very much essential for blood clotting mechanism. These are the 3 types of fluid connective tissue: red blood cells, white blood cells. So red blood cells and white blood cells and platelets, these are the 3 types of cells which forms the tissue, blood. And next comes lymph. Lymph is also a colorless fluid and it consists of plasma and WBC. And once again, I just want you to take imagination of a playground. So once you're playing in a playground, once you get hurt and if you get a wound, the first thing to come out from the skin, you can see a white color fluid coming out, and then only you can see the blood coming out. So the white color fluid which is coming out once when you get a hurt or wound, which is called as plasma. So the plasma and WBC, once it is coming out, it will not allow any type of microorganisms to enter into our bloodstream. And you know very well, you have read in the previous classes about the microorganisms, and the way of entry of microorganisms is through cuts and wounds. So whenever we have a cut and wound in our body, it proves to be a way for the microorganisms to enter into our bloodstream, and thus it is entering inside our body, thus causing various kinds of infections and diseases. So these kind of plasma and WBC, these were the first thing to come out once we get hurt, and it prevents the entry of microorganisms inside our body. So lymph is also very much important for our defense mechanism. And this is a place where the exchange of materials between blood and tissue fluids occur. So the exchange of materials between the blood and tissue fluids. So tissue fluids are the fluids which is present in tissues, other kind of tissues. So here the exchange of materials between the blood and tissues occur with the help of lymph. So this is all about the fluid connective tissue. So children, we have discussed about the different types of fluid connective tissue, and once again we'll get back and see about the different types of animal tissues. So animal tissues has been classified into 4 major types of tissues: epithelial tissues, muscular tissues, connective tissues, and nervous tissues. So here comes the classification of animal tissues. So we'll brief it together. Classification of animal tissues: it has been broadly classified into epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue, and nervous tissue. And epithelial tissue main function is to protection and secretion and absorption. Based on the function, it has been divided into different types: squamous epithelium, columnar epithelium, cuboidal epithelium, ciliated epithelium, and glandular epithelium. And supportive connective tissue is mainly meant for support, binding, and packing, and this is divided into 4 major types: connective tissue proper, and supportive connective tissue, dense connective tissue, and fluid connective tissue. And once again, this connective tissue proper is divided into areolar tissue and adipose tissue, and supportive connective tissue has been divided into cartilage and bone, and dense connective tissue has been classified into tendon and ligament, and fluid connective tissue is classified as blood and lymph. And in turn, blood contains plasma, RBC, WBC, and platelets, and lymph contains plasma and WBC. And coming to muscular tissue, which is mainly meant for locomotion and movement, which is classified into 3 major types: striated or voluntary muscles, non-striated or involuntary muscles, and cardiac muscles. And coming to nervous tissue, it is made up of neurons, which forms the basic unit of nervous tissue, which is made up of cell body, axon, and dendron. So this is all about the overall classification of animal tissues. So children, from these 4 parts, we have discussed about the classification of plant tissues and the classification of animal tissues. So in the next video, we will discuss about the cell division, mitosis, and meiosis. Till that, keep watching all these videos together and try to complete all your homework, and keep watching, keep listening. Thank you. Have a nice day.